I gave them $22,000 for the wedding. Then came the message. Please come without your wife. I stared at it for a moment, trying to make sense of what I'd just read. No explanation, no apology, no warning, just 5 words hanging there in the family group chat, as if it were no big deal, like my wife didn't matter, like I didn't matter either. I read it again, just to be sure. Maybe I'd misinterpreted it, maybe autocorrect had betrayed me. But no, it was crystal clear. Please come without your wife. No punctuation, no context, just that. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter, feeling strangely calm. My hands didn't shake, and I wasn't angry, I was just quiet. Caroline walked in from the living room, cradling her tea. She looked at me and frowned. You look like someone died. I didn't say anything. Instead, I handed her the phone. She read the message without saying a word. Her lips tightened, but that was it. No tears, no drama, just silence. After a moment, she spoke. Well, they finally said it out loud. I nodded. What are you going to do? She asked. I opened the group chat, the one titled Isla and Tyler's Wedding Dream Team, scrolled to the bottom, and tapped Leave Chat. I'm doing exactly what they asked, I replied. I'm not bringing you. Caroline searched my face, her eyes narrowing slightly. You're going without me? No, I said, we're not going. She exhaled, looking away for a beat. I knew it would come to this. I just didn't think they'd actually put it in writing. Neither did I. 4 months, I had been the family's financial safety net, no opinion, no voice, just the person they turned to when they needed help. Isla cried over FaceTime about how expensive everything was, and naturally, they all turned to me. You've always been the responsible one, Mom said. She's your sister, Dad added. She's never asked for anything before. All lies. So I paid, for the venue, the flowers, the photo booth, the charcuterie wall, everything, even the cake. The cake, 7 tiers, custom icing, the kind of thing that costs more than some people's rent. They smiled and took my money, but then turned around and told me my wife wasn't welcome. Why? Because Caroline didn't laugh at Isla's jokes? Because she didn't play the role of the perfect daughter-in-law? Because she once asked Tyler, do you even like Isla, or are you just afraid of her, at a dinner party? Yeah, that one probably did it. Caroline didn't say a word, she just stood there, holding the phone, her jaw clenched, eyes dry. She looked at me, really looked, and said, I knew you'd pick me, but it still hurts. I nodded, we'll stay home. Then I smiled, a small, tight smile, but I'm still contributing to the wedding. She raised an eyebrow. You already gave them 22 grand. I did, I said, but there's one thing I quietly changed. The wedding went ahead. It was everything they dreamed of, Instagram perfect, platinum accents, a live quartet, guests dressed in shades of cream and blush, as if they were posing for a Vogue cover. Isla was glowing in every photo. Tyler looked as miserable as he always did. My parents beamed, like they'd raised royalty. Everything was perfect, until the cake arrived. That's when it started. The calls, 1, then 3, then 20, 75 missed calls within 2 hours. From Mom, from Isla, from Tyler, even Aunt Martha, who once called me cheap for bringing store-bought wine to Christmas. I didn't answer. I just sat on the couch, poured myself a drink, clinked my glass against Caroline's, and said, Happy wedding day, Isla. $22,000, I muttered, scrolling through my bank app again. Caroline looked up from her laptop. Still checking? I turned the screen toward her, just making sure I actually paid for all this delusion. The final invoice from Lashta Weddings and Events sat in my inbox, $22,480. That didn't include the extra $350 for the emergency pie rescheduling or the $150 veil stylist because the first one gave off discount energy. I'd paid for everything. And the deeper I thought about it, the more furious I became, not because of the money, but because of how easily they took it. It didn't start with the wedding, it had started years ago. The moment I landed a decent job after college, my parents had assigned me the role of the responsible one, the family banker, fixer, therapist, mover, accountant, and occasional babysitter. And Isla? Isla was the sensitive one, which meant manipulator, professional victim, and expert in crocodile tears. You're the stable one, Mom always said, like it was a compliment. Isla's not built like you, Dad added. She's more emotional. Right. Emotional, like the time she crashed her car while texting and driving and blamed it on the sun glare. And I paid the deductible. Or when she got fired for creative differences and I helped her through the rough patch, which meant I covered her rent for 4 months. Or when she decided to start her own business, so I built her Etsy page and bought overpriced, hand-glued wine glasses for inventory. Every time she failed, I was her safety net, and every time I helped, she failed harder. And Caroline, she saw it all from the start. They don't respect you, she said one night, after Isla sent me a Venmo request titled Little Emergency. She's family, I said, brushing it off. It's not a big deal. Caroline looked at me like I'd lost my mind. It's never a big deal, until one day you wake up and realize you're broke and alone. She wasn't wrong, but she was patient. God, was she patient? Caroline smiled through every dinner where my mother critiqued her outfit with a smile too tight to be kind. She absorbed Isla's fake compliments without flinching. You're so lucky he doesn't care about status. Or, it's cute how low-key you are. Under the table, she'd squeeze my hand while my father launched into another monologue about how we all needed to support Isla during this life transition. Caroline never cracked, never gave them a scene, and that's what they were waiting for, any excuse to vilify her out loud. But she gave them nothing. So they got clever. As wedding planning kicked off, I found myself mysteriously excluded from most conversations. Isla's texts always came wrapped in fake concern. Oh no, we just figured you were swamped with work, so we made a few fast decisions. Fast decisions that cost me thousands. We're doing a champagne fountain, booked fire dancers for the after party, 7-tier cake, gold leaf, orchids, you'll love it. And who paid for it all? That would be me. But there was one moment that flipped the switch. Quietly, internally, no fireworks, just a silence that said, enough. It was 3 weeks before the wedding. We were at my parents' house for dinner. Caroline and I brought a bottle of wine and a small gift for Isla, a silk robe, hand-embroidered from her favorite boutique, a peace offering, an olive branch. Isla opened the box, glanced inside, and forced a tight smile. Oh, thanks, I already have 2 of these, but okay. Then she leaned in and muttered, just loud enough for us to hear. At least you're good for something, I guess. Caroline heard it. Her fingers tensed around her wine glass, but she stayed silent, dignified. I stood up. The room stilled. Excuse me, I said, laying my napkin on the table. Where are you going? Mom asked, frowning. Out, for air. I walked out the front door, sat in the car, and didn't move for an hour. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, scrolling through invoices and receipts, everything I'd paid for, every insult swallowed. Then I opened the cake design Isla had sent. Please confirm by Friday. No changes. I want this cake to be timeless, soft ivory, gold trim, sugar roses, subtle elegance. Think Meghan Markle meets Versailles. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and called the bakery. The owner knew me by name. Of course he did. Hi, I said. I need to make a small change. I didn't tell Caroline, not until the night before the wedding when she caught me sipping bourbon, grinning like I knew something she didn't. What did you do? She asked, narrowing her eyes. I shrugged. Who says I did anything? You only smile like that when you're hiding fire, she said. I kissed her forehead and whispered, let's just say dessert will be memorable. The ballroom gleamed with gold light. Isla's dress sparkled under chandeliers. Tyler wore his best hostage smile. Champagne flowed. The string quartet played. Cameras rolled. It was perfect. Sickeningly perfect. And now, the MC announced, the moment you've all been waiting for, Isla and Tyler's wedding cake. Applause. Phones up. Guests leaning forward, hungry for the show. Isla clasped her hands like a child about to open a gift. The lights dimmed. A soft acoustic version of Can't Help Falling in Love began to play. Fog rolled in, real fog, dry ice hissing behind the doors as 2 servers wheeled in a massive 3-tier cake. Ivory frosting, gold details, sugar roses, the initials LT in tiny edible pearls. Gasps, cheers, even Tyler looked impressed. Isla glowed. She took the knife, stepped forward, and just as she touched the frosting, crack. The middle tier split. Thud, the top collapsed sideways. And then, pop. From inside the cake, a figure exploded upward. A clown, in a wedding dress. Full veil, Red nose, white gloves, lipstick smeared into a wide, cartoonish grin. Pinned to her chest, a laminated sign. Miss Perfect. Silence. Then, boing, 2 yellow rubber chickens launched out on springs, flapping into the crowd. The clown stood tall like she'd just landed on Broadway, then bowed, deeply, and tossed a flurry of white feathers into the air from a bouquet with a pink ribbon that read, Rosilla Special. Isla stared, frozen. The clown grabbed a mic from somewhere deep in the cake and spoke in a sweet, eerie voice. Special delivery for the bride, the show must go on. Laughter broke out, some guests clapped, others screamed, one guy asked, wait, is this part of it? Isla didn't speak. Tyler stepped away from the cake like it might explode again. Mom stormed forward, furious. Get out of here, this is a wedding, not a circus. The clown blew her a kiss. Oh, honey, this is the circus, you're just late to the tent. Then she turned to Isla, bowed low, and said, loud enough for the front row to hear. You ordered perfection, we brought the reflection. Isla cracked. Screamed. Get her out, who did this? But the clown was already moonwalking toward the exit. As she reached the back of the room, she turned, winked at a phone camera, and said with a giant grin, bye, Isla, you're the star now. Then she vanished into the fog. The internet did what it always does. By midnight, #clowncake was trending. I didn't even need to check the news. Caroline showed me the live stream. She nearly choked on her wine when the clown popped out, collapsed in laughter when the chickens flew, wiped a tear when the feathers hit the chandelier. She looked at me and whispered, you're an artist. I raised my glass to the screen. Happy wedding day, Isla. The next morning was too quiet. I woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then I checked my phone. 143 missed calls. Group chats renamed. This isn't funny. You went too far, you're dead to us. Voicemails from my mother, from Isla, from relatives I barely remembered. Texts followed. How could you do this to your sister? You humiliated the whole family. Mom's crying. Isla's not eating. Hope you're proud, clown boy. I scrolled, sipping my coffee. Caroline shuffled in, robe loose around her waist, hair a soft mess of sleep. Anything fun this morning? She murmured. I handed her my phone. She read 3 texts before handing it back, eyes barely open. Wow, she said. You really broke them. Later that afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Not hesitant. A knock with an agenda. I opened it to find my mother in oversized sunglasses, the kind meant to shield celebrities, or cowards. My father stood behind her, looking like he hadn't slept since the cake exploded. I said nothing. We need to talk, she snapped, brushing past me like it was her house. Dad trailed behind, dragging the weight of everything unsaid. Caroline stayed in the kitchen. She didn't need an invitation to stay out of it. My mother stopped in the center of the living room, turned sharply, and hissed. You ruined your sister's wedding. I kept my tone flat. She ruined my marriage first. Oh, don't be dramatic, she scoffed. It was just one message. One message that said, don't bring your wife. Silence. You humiliated her. In front of 200 people. There was a clown. She stared at me, furious. You think this is funny? No, I said. I think it's poetic. Her eyes narrowed. You're a bitter little boy who can't stand seeing his sister happy. I stood. And you're a mother who taught her daughter that love means ownership and money means silence. Dad stepped in. That's enough. I didn't move. No. It's not. They tried to interrupt, but I wasn't finished. All my life, I paid for things I was never allowed to say out loud. That's what you raised me to be. Quiet. Useful. Invisible. And I did it. I swallowed it all while Isla tore apart everything I built, and you stood by smiling, calling it family. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I'm done swallowing. My mother stared at me, like she was trying to locate the son she thought she knew. You're no longer part of this family, she said through clenched teeth. She turned and stormed out. Dad lingered. I didn't know about the message, he said quietly. But you didn't stop it either. He paused, nodded once, and followed her out. Door closed. Quiet again. By Monday, the wedding clown video had 2.3 million views on TikTok. By Tuesday, someone remixed it with circus music and clown honks. By Wednesday, BuzzFeed posted an article, "Bride gets clowned at her own wedding, literally." Isla disappeared from social media. Tyler moved out of the honeymoon suite early. Some said he was staying with a cousin. Others said he left town. I didn't care. I was finally sleeping again. Then Friday came. I was out running errands when Caroline called. "Babe," she said, voice sharp. "You need to come home. Now." I rushed back. She was waiting in the kitchen, holding a manila envelope. "No return address," she said. Hand delivered. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, printed in bold. "You thought you were the only one she used." Clipped to the top, a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop. One folder. Inside, screenshots, bank transfers, voice memos, text logs. Conversations between Isla and our cousin Jordan. Apparently, my clown stunt wasn't the only surprise act she was in. Turns out she had 2 weddings planned. Mine, the staged production. Jordan, the real one, rehearsed in secret. He'd been funding her double life for 6 months. Their last exchange? "Isla, don't worry, baby. This is just optics. I need the ring for the prenup. Once I have that, it's done." "Jordan, you swear?" "Isla, you think I'd ever love someone like Tyler?" I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. Caroline stood over me, her expression unreadable. "Do we send this to Tyler?" she asked. I didn't answer at first. Then I smiled. "No," I said. "We deliver it." With a bow. That night, I didn't sleep. Not from guilt. Not from fear. But because I felt awake, truly awake, for the first time in years. I sat at my desk, the USB drive still plugged in, the folder open in front of me like a wound I was no longer afraid to touch. The words echoed through my head, slow and certain. "You thought you were the only one she used. I should have known." Isla didn't just take my money. She took my silence. My loyalty. My restraint. But not anymore. She took his, too. Jordan, our cousin. Another victim of Isla's savior complex, with just enough disposable income to fund Isla's secret second wedding. The messages were damning. She'd played him for months. The public wedding? All for show. She'd told him it was just about securing the prenup. After that, she'd end it. She married Tyler, but it was always his money she was after, and she tossed Jordan aside when she was done. The sun was barely creeping over the horizon when I woke up. Coffee. Bagel. Caroline came down the stairs in one of my oversized t-shirts, hair messy and eyes half closed, and kissed me on the cheek. "You look terrifyingly calm," she murmured. "I feel fantastic. You're glowing, like a villain in the middle of a monologue." I handed her the stack of printed files. She skimmed through the first few pages, then looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Oh my God. We're not mailing this." "No," I said, setting the papers down. "We're delivering it." Tyler wasn't at his apartment. Not since the wedding. But my cousin Brian spotted him at the gym. We drove there, and sure enough, there he was, unloading his rage on a heavy bag like it had done him personal harm. I called his name, just once. He turned. His face was drenched in sweat, eyes red from lack of sleep or maybe too many tears. He froze when he saw us, his posture stiffening like he was waiting for a punch. He walked toward us like a man stepping into a firing line. "If you came to gloat," he said, voice low and raw, "get in line." I didn't answer. I simply handed him the red folder. He frowned and opened it slowly. At first, he flipped through the pages quickly, barely reading. Then his fingers stilled. His eyes widened. He turned the page. Another. Another. Finally, his hands trembled when he saw the photo. Isla. In Jordan's apartment. Bare leg, wine glass in hand. His breathing faltered. "She told me she needed a stable future." "No," I said quietly, "she needed a funding plan." He sat down hard on a bench. The folder dropped into his lap. He buried his face in his hands, but not before I saw the tears threatening to break free. She said I was the first man she ever really trusted. I sat next to him, voice calm, but cutting. She says that to whoever's paying for the show. He didn't cry, but I saw how badly he wanted to. Instead, he whispered. She's a black hole. She sucks everything good in, then spits out lies. I nodded. She almost got all of us. He looked at me, something unexpected in his voice. Thank you. We shook hands, and I walked away. That night, I turned off my phone. Caroline and I made pasta, opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion. We laughed, carefree. And we let the world burn without us. By morning, the clown cake video had reached over 4 million views. Clips of the cake were everywhere. Someone auto-tuned the clown's line. You ordered perfection, we brought the reflection. And suddenly, it was a viral song on Spotify. Isla deleted her social media accounts. Jordan erased every trace of his online existence. But the internet doesn't forget. Screenshots. Hashtags. Reaction videos. Isla became the cautionary tale no one ever wanted to be. 4 days later, my parents called. I didn't pick up. Then came an email. Whatever was between you and Isla, you took it too far. You've disgraced this family. I replied with a single line. I didn't disgrace this family. I documented it. Blocked. Simple. Done. A week later, another letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a crumpled thank you card, the ink smeared from her hurried hand. It read, You were always better than me. That's why I hated you. You never wanted anything from anyone. You just wanted to be left alone, and we couldn't even give you that. You won. I hope it was worth it. I read it once. Then again. Caroline came in and saw me holding it. Is it an apology? She asked. No, I said. It's a confession. But not the kind that fixes anything. I didn't respond to her. Instead, I framed the card. Hung it in my office. Not out of pride, but as a reminder. Never again. It's been 2 months now. Caroline and I are flying to Portugal next week. Our first real vacation. No obligations. No fake invitations. No sister demanding handouts. I changed my number. Deleted the family chat. Started therapy. And then, something strange happened. People, distant relatives, old friends, began messaging me privately. I wish I had the guts to do what you did. You were right to walk away. That clown cake was iconic. It became more than just a viral moment. It became a line in the sand. A declaration. No more. No more pretending. No more funding dysfunction. No more carrying people who spit in your face when your wallet runs dry. Caroline and I toast to it every Friday now. She raises her glass and says, To Miss Perfect. And I reply, Long may she stay off the throne.